As Mahatma Gandhi once said, to find yourself, you need to lose yourself into the service of others. It is the true essence of this question that millions of people in our society face every single day. They spend day in and day out trying to answer this question about themselves. This is Raja Faris, and today we're joined by a youthful, ambitious person who has been asking this question himself his whole life and embarked on a journey to ensure that it was this answer that he found at the end of it. This is Ayat Ilahi, and he is an up-and-coming social worker who has been working tirelessly day and night for the betterment of the people and the prosperity of our society. He also has his own NGO called Ayat Ilahi Foundation, which helps to promote not only education and human rights in the underprivileged society, but also to ensure that our environment and animal rights are not negligently impugned by our society itself. Ayat, Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So Ayat, first of all, tell us about yourself and what have you been doing up till now currently?
Okay, so my name is Ayat, and up till now, I've been almost doing every single thing that comes my way. From dramatics, from community services, from sports and debates, I've been doing it all. I started off from scratch in A-levels. To be honest, I was not in all of this before A-levels. I started in A-levels from scratch. Especially, I started my NGO from scratch. It was like, I had it written down that I want to do it, but I just did not have that force that would help me, to actually put it into an action. And that happened by the help of our counselor that was back in my school. So I feel like it was in 2022 when I started off. We started in October, and our first main goal was making a logo, which was so hard, to be honest, because we would be sitting in that office like the entire day and designing logos. And it was so hard because every single logo was either taken up and then our next thing was deciding a name. We would go through every single name, go through every single idea through Google, but we could not find one. So that's when we decided that let's just use my own name for this thing.
That's interesting. As you mentioned, you started in A-levels, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously high school is one of these phases in one's life that, shapes your personality and shapes your future itself. Yeah. And it's also the phase in which you find the most hardships and challenges thrown at you without much support, right? Yeah. So that's actually one of the things that I admire about you is the fact that having no support yourself or some support, you chose to, culminate that essence into supporting others. And that's an act that is very commendable, right? So I actually wanted to ask you that how did you come up with, the idea of an organization? Where was that epiphany and where was that idea that generated, that light bulb moment you see in those cartoons? Yes, that is what I want to do in the future and I need to do it right now. When was that moment and how was that moment?
So it was actually, I've been really into animals and helping people since childhood. That was just me. I really found happiness in helping people and, just making a difference in the society. But, I never had this vision of starting an NGO. I basically did not even know what an NGO is at that time. So this happened really when my dog died. I was only 14 and I had him for 12 or 13 years of my life. And when he died, that thing sent me in a downward spiral, and it was really hard for me for as long as I can remember. Even now, it was just something that I could not cope up with.
Of course,
in my teenage.
You build an emotional connection with your pet. Yeah.
So I was really deeply connected with my dog. So because even before A-levels, I was not a very social person. I did not have a lot of friends. So it was all my dog. And when he died, I felt as if my world was gone. So that's when I decided that, that I've been so attached to animals my entire life. I should do something out of it. I should really make it beneficial for other animals as well. And when I had my dog, I would see every single person coming at my home praising not the dog but his breed. So that's also what I felt, that stray animals and stray dogs and cats are like treated the worst possible ways, because probably they're not like a specific breed. So, and even when growing up, I used to go down streets and see people treating these animals so badly. I actually saw this car that ran up over a dog, and they did not even stop. The dog was on the road dead.
Right, yeah.
So that was also a thing that I really felt like I need to do something.
As once Martin Luther King Jr. said, life's most persistent question is that what can you do to help others, right? And I think that what must have been in your mind when you were experiencing these moments. So one of the questions that I also have for you, and it's one that I asked myself as well when I was starting out A levels in my high school, is that being amongst the youth, right? I'm not that old right now, we're teenagers.
Yeah.
Being of this age group, is it hard for us to enter individually and independently into social working? Because I think it is obviously labor intensive, and obviously capital intensive as well. So what were the challenges that you faced entering this area and this space, the social working part? Where did you start? What was the first moment for community service that you actually came up with?
Okay, so I feel like being a teenager, it is hard because we have so much going on in our own lives, physically and mentally as well. So we are so like busy in dealing with our own challenges that we barely get time to look at the world outside
Exactly.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So I feel like the first step that I took was finding myself, finding
course.
where I lie in life, finding where, like, how I can cope up with anxiety, depression, and all of that.
Of course.
And after you do that, that is only when you can look outside of you. That is the point where you see, beauty of the world, and you see that how people have messed it up actually.
Right.
So once you figure yourself out, that's the point when you need to really figure your surroundings out and really do something for them. So that was my turning point.
That's actually very inspiring to hear. Also, being young, you said that we're self-centered basically.
Yeah.
And also being in the high school, having that pressure of academic and co-curricular activities and everything. How did you manage those 2 or 3 things, the co-curricular activities? Because we'll talk about it. I know you've been active co-curricular as well, but also academically. Did it have any challenges and impacts on your curricular activities and your academics?
I'm not going to sit here and say that it did not affect my studies. It did. It definitely did affect my studies, and it affected my studies really badly. And the main thing that really affected my studies was not having a vision. That is a mistake that I made, and something that I regret till this day. That I chose wrong subjects.
Oh.
I had family pressure, कि ये वाले subjects choose करने, ये वाले नहीं करने, ये वाले करने हैं. So I really, never got that chance to do what I liked. So due to that, it really sent me in a downward spiral, because I was doing something that I did not like and I did not enjoy doing, something that I did not felt myself doing. And I failed miserably. But then I had to redeem myself from that. And I had to put a pause to co-curriculars and just focus on one thing for that specific time period. So that's how I, just dealt with it.
Amazing. Right. So I actually wanted to ask you about the details of the social works that you've actually done with your NGO Ayat Ilahi Foundation, right? What are the things that you actually have in your agenda, and what are the things that you actively focus upon? Because most of the NGOs don't have everything on their board, right? They're usually working on something specific, for example, mental health, for example, environment, animals, as you said. So what has your foundation been doing in this regard?
So when I started Ayat Ilahi Foundation, my main motive was animals. But then I had to expand towards, humanitarian and environmental well-being as well. So our first campaign, I actually started with a 3-month campaign. I had all sorts of activities in that campaign. We did a plantation drive we visited an animal shelter, and we also visited an orphanage, and we also did a clothing drive. So it was a 3-month campaign.
That's amazing.
And after that campaign, I did a 1-month campaign where we would, organize trips to different animal shelters, orphanages, and we would take students from different schools over there, and they would just go there and spend time with them. So that's how the volunteers also started developing that interest in, community services, that they would go on these trips and they would actually enjoy. So this is how you built up that trust and that interest of the youth.
Of course.
And for now, back in 2023, we were only based in Lahore. So now I've been doing these campaigns in Islamabad, Kasur, and Lahore, all at simultaneously.
Amazing.
So our next campaign, inshallah, will be from Islamabad. So that's
incredible.
So far.
So, in Pakistan as well, which is like a developing country, labor and capital is a very important thing if you're trying to start something up. Even if it's a business, an NGO, or even anything that you want to do, you need labor and you need capital. So what have you been actually doing in these regards? How have you gathered the volunteers or the labor that you have to implement the projects and the drives that you do? And how have you gathered the capital? Where does the capital come from? And what is the financial situation of your foundation going like?
Okay, so starting off, before my first campaign, yes, it did affect me financially. It did. So because I had to do it all by myself.
Oh.
And when you do not have volunteers and when you do not have a proper team and your NGO is really raw, it is hard. I would work day and night to organize one single campaign and one single trip. But, after you do one of your trips, it just gets easier. You just get more comfortable with that hardship and you just get comfortable with getting uncomfortable. That's how I would put it. So after my first campaign, so the budget came from volunteers. They would pay registration fee and I would utilize all of that fee in organizing these trips and different things. And as far as a team, I used volunteers from my first ever campaign as permanent members in my NGO.
That's amazing, yeah.
Because they already had that experience and they knew how my NGO worked.
Of course.
So that was, I feel like, the best thing that I did, in my whole journey of this NGO. That was one of the best decisions I've made, of putting other people in my NGO and not just anyone, my own volunteers. And they've been working great, to be honest. They're the ones actually who expanded Ilahi Foundation to Kasur and Islamabad.
Oh my God.
So that is how I did it.
That's amazing. All right. So you mentioned that you yourself suffered greatly and adversely by mental health problems, stress and anxiety of going through the high schooling level and the challenges that come along with it. Are you planning on expanding your NGO to talk about and tackle mental health problems in, underprivileged sector in Pakistan, especially youth and, for example, women and children?
To be honest, yes, I would love to do that. But I feel like in Pakistan, mental health is a topic that is not really given importance.
Exactly.
So it is a much harder thing to, tackle with. Even when I did a campaign for animals, it was really hard for me to tackle because, people in Pakistan don't really pay attention towards animals or stray animals or any of that, right? So yeah, I would love to speak about mental health. I'm open to putting my experiences in front of you. It is not really easy to present yourself when you were vulnerable.
Agreed.
People usually like to hide when they're vulnerable or when, they're affected by different things.
Exactly.
But
we need to provide a safe space for them to open up. Yeah.
And it takes a lot to step up on a stage and talk about that thing. True. And show that, yes, you were vulnerable at that time. And it is a normal human emotion which everyone goes through in their life. And I feel like it's no shame in accepting it.
Exactly. The people
and talking about it.
The people who, as you said, come up on a stage and talk about it and know that they've been vulnerable and tell people that they've been vulnerable. I honestly believe that they truly are the most strongest and, the bravest people out there, admitting their
Yeah,
vulnerability.
I mean, to be honest, I've been at that stage in my life where I would cry every single day. I would not want to wake up. I would not want to eat anything. I would not want to get out of my bed. I do not want to meet anyone else. So once I got out of that, I really wanted to tell people that yes, this has happened with me and this is natural. It happens with everyone else as well. Not even a single person on this earth would not go through these things. It's just किसी के साथ ये चीजें किस टाइम पे किसी टाइम पे होती हैं, किसी की चीजें किसी टाइम पे होती हैं.
Yeah.
So someone might go through these things in their early 40s or early 30s or even before their teenage. They could go through these things.
Of course.
So yeah, I would love to talk about mental health as well and utilize my platform for good.
Of course. So honestly, one of the things that you said was that mental health being a stigma, or people don't actually talk about it, and they're afraid to talk about it, honestly. So the things that you have talked about, for example, animal rights and other forms of drives that you've done, was it hard to challenge that stigma, challenge that stereotype? And what was the backlash or the feedback that you have had from the people that you did preach to? How was that experience like?
Okay, so when I first time really wanted to visit an animal shelter, people at that animal shelter were really shocked. They did not believe that someone actually wanted to visit and spend their time with stray animals that were not a specific breed. So they were really shocked. And then when we went to this orphanage, they had these children over there and they were so sweet. They were like the sweetest people I've ever met. And those children were actually shocked. They were honestly shocked that we had people coming in and talking to us and bringing gifts, and we actually played with them. And it was so fun, to be honest. We would go to these slides and swings and just run around and just like sweat and get tired and then just sit and have some food. So it was really good.
Of course.
So yeah, and even when I started my NGO, I had really people putting me down that your campaigns won't work, and I really dealt with some really nasty allegations and really nasty words that I would not say or I would not name them, but yeah, I did go through some really nasty allegations.
Honestly, I've heard that if you're doing a good work and if you're actually making an impact, you'll always have the negative, side of things and the backlash.
Yeah.
So that's actually good, but also I think would build the character of your social working style, So if you are facing such challenges, I believe that those challenges would have made you stronger and come back, even better and greater than you were before.
Yeah, definitely.
So I believe that these challenges would have been helpful actually for you to fuel your ambition and your drive to support our society as a whole. So apart from the social working aspects, what would you say through your high schooling life led to a good character building of you, which in turn led to you sympathizing with our society and trying to help it in any way you could? What was those experiences like in your high schooling life?
High school is not easy for anyone. All of us go through different things. Someone might have gone through bullying, someone might have gone through peer pressure, or like even pressure with studies. I personally did deal with bullying. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, no one was able to bully me. Yes, I did go through bullying. I did go through peer pressure. I went through all of those things during high school. Mostly also because that was my first step into practical life. That was my first time stepping up in a really social gathering and speaking up to people. So yeah, it was hard. I did go through a lot of bullying. There were a lot of challenges, anxiety and depression, and dealing with all of these things at one time, it really builds up. So yeah, it was really challenging, and you only get stronger when you face these challenges.
Right. For the people who's listening to this, you suffered all these things about mental challenges that you faced. How would you suggest that you got out of them? How would you suggest people to, who are actually suffering these things, to tackle them head on? And how were you able to, get out of them and build your own organization trying to help other people?
Everyone has their own way of dealing with things. Some of us like to work a lot. Some of us like to rot in bed. Some of us like to eat a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be a spokesperson for everyone. I'm going to say how I dealt with it. So my way of dealing with it was like working. I started an NGO. I was studying. I was doing co-curriculars, doing dramas, plays, and all of these things. And I was so busy that I would barely get time to think about these things. And when I used to go at my home at night, I was just used to fall in my bed and I used to fall asleep. I'm not gonna lie. So I barely got time to think about these things. And after a certain time, I started forgetting these things. And I also actually ate a lot.
Of course. Everybody, as you said, has their own way of coping and way of dealing. So at this point in time, do you have a plan for your future? Do you have other things that you have planned to scale your organization, to scale it even further than 3 or 4 cities that you've mentioned? What are the other things and challenges that you see in our society? What are those challenges that you're planning on tackling and facing after, perfecting or not perfecting, but trying to do best as you can in the space that you've already been into? What are the other spaces that you want to tackle head on?
So as far as my personal life, to be honest, I do not really know what I'll be doing ahead. I don't know what I'll be doing tomorrow. And all of us go through this phase where we do not know what we'll be doing, And it is fine to not have everything figured out. On the outside, it might look like that you have everything figured out and you're doing perfectly in life. But only someone who's actually, in their own lives, they know that they do not have everything figured out. And it's fine to go through that. Eventually, you will have a plan, you will come up with new things, and you will start a new life.
Of course.
And as far as my NGO, I do have a basic plan. I do really, really, really want to talk about mental health and how it is not really talked about. That is my first motive right now. Secondly, I really want to improve life of stray animals and animals in general. Animals who are kept at zoos, who are starved. We've been seeing these things right now.
The camel incident.
Yeah, and the dog incident.
Thrown out of the...
Yeah, one thing that I've really liked about this society is how social media is helping us today.
True.
If this dog incident would have happened 10 years ago, no one would have talked about it. But how social media was enraged and how people were committed, those people were actually arrested.
Yeah. I think the camel incident, as it happened, as it grew in popularity, it was the Sindh government who took control of the case and, fought for that camel and for the farmer that it belonged to. So talking about animals, I've read somewhere that you've also done the worked in the PETA SOS wing of a USA-based NGO, which actually specifically works on the prevention of cruelty of animals. So how was your experience there, and what were the things that you did or spread awareness, or how did you help the society in that space?
Okay. So PETA is an organization that works for animal rights, not only stray animals, but also animals who are kept in labs and have experiments done on them. PETA SOS deals with more like students and, youth. So when I started working with PETA, I was actually really nervous because it was first time that PETA was coming to Pakistan, and it was the first time that anyone from Pakistan was working with an NGO that is not in Pakistan. It was an international achievement for me. So they were happy to provide me with resources and to, take action in not only my school, but other campuses as well. And we had these, stalls where we would give them those brochures and, badges, which would really symbolize animal cruelty and which would really, show that yes, animals are being oppressed. And
of course,
everyone knows that animals are going through these things. We just need to throw some light.
Of course.
We just need to bring that issue in spotlight, and that's what PETA SOS really helped me doing. So
Right.
that was my first experience with working with an NGO and knowing how all of it works.
So I believe that it was also one of the inspirations and the learning experiences that you
Yeah,
had
definitely.
to convert it into your
Yeah.
own NGO.
Plus, it was my first time stepping into a professional life through an NGO.
That's amazing. Again, as Helen Keller actually once said, alone we can do so much. Together
Yeah.
we can do so much more.
Yeah.
What would you suggest that needs to be done in our society for people to come together and tackle the challenges head on? How would you suggest that people be, we spread awareness to people who live in, for example, the underprivileged society or the relatively, I shouldn't say this word, ignorant, but the relatively less knowledgeable society,
Yeah.
who are not as connected with our society and the problems within it. There are many people, as we talked about animals rights, right? There are many people who don't actually know what the camel incident was, or what the
Yeah.
Lahore zoo closure was, or what the dog incident was. So how would you suggest we raise this awareness for people to come together?
I feel like social media is a really powerful tool. Everything has a good side and a bad side to it. Social media does have bad side. You do feel, demotivated. You do go through backlash and negative comments. But it also has a good side. It is a really, really, really powerful tool. Like, I feel like a lot of people do not even realize how powerful it is.
Exactly.
You could use it for good as well. So just try to utilize your platforms. A lot of us have Instagram accounts that are public, Facebook accounts, Snapchat and Twitter or whatever that is. I don't know how to use all of this. So, so we need to utilize them for good. If you're just, posting what you like and about yourself, you're not making use of your platform in a good way.
Of course.
You're not doing anything good for the society. So, yeah, all of us like to share pictures and selfies and with friends. But once in a while, you should also share something that really helps the society.
Of course, the role of social media actually in the Palestinian issue
Yeah.
has been incredible, actually.
Yeah, I've never seen social media being used so powerfully.
Very honestly, it has been inspirational for all of us to share, for example, stories and posts and everything,
Yeah.
and pictures, and raise awareness about
I mean,
these
like, do
problems.
you see media in Gaza? Do you see, like, proper channels in Gaza? No, you don't. All that you see is through Instagram and Facebook and all of these YouTube and all of these videos. And I actually do have some people saying that if you're boycotting Israeli, food brands, you should also boycott social media as well. जिसके लिए मैं ये कहता हूँ कि ये अपने हाथों से अपना गला दबाने वाली बात है.
बिल्कुल.
Because if you boycott social media, how do you think that you're gonna know what's going on in Gaza? Because that is the only way that you're knowing what's going on in Gaza. That is the only means of, information being transferred.
On top of the Western, censorship and everything.
Exactly.
And the Western media does not show all of the
Exactly.
cruelty that Israel
Because-
has been putting.
Because
the
those people are
Palestinians
not white.
through. Exactly.
Exactly.
So I think social media has been a paramount, key aspect of our Palestinian issues and
Yeah.
the betterment towards it.
Yeah.
Right? So talking about Palestine, have you actually decided to start a charity drive for Palestine to donate to Gaza and Rafah
Yeah.
and places like these? Have you actually tried this before, or is it a very big,
Yeah.
tall
I mean,
mountain to climb?
I do
right now?
really feel about Gaza. I do really feel bad about what's going on over there. And it really breaks your heart when you see
course.
these kids with no family crying for food and help. I've been crying whenever I used to see these videos, and like they were so heartbreaking. But taking an action for it apart from social media through my NGO, I feel like it is just too much, and I do not have that vision right now for how to take an action. If I know how can I take an action, if I know that how can I do something through my NGO, I would love to take a part in it. But right now, once again, I do not have that part of
Of
my
course.
NGO figured out right now.
Of course. I hope that you do get that.
Yeah.
again scaled up, and
Yeah.
I hope the original team of volunteers that you have
Yeah.
play a paramount role in that as well. So one of the other things that I actually wanted to discuss with you, which was awe-inspiring for me as well, is, for example, firstly, as the saying goes, every what was it? As the saying goes, every chance not taken is an opportunity lost. So, as a teenager, a youthful ambition, how would you suggest and how would you guide the new generation of youth and young social workers to get into this space and play a effective role, have an impact on our society? What guidelines would you give to me, essentially? Because I have thought about it. So working socially, I have done some volunteering work, but to be honest, it wasn't as impactful as I would like it to be,
Yeah.
So how would you suggest people like me and people, who are afraid to take that jump,
Yeah.
who are afraid to make that decision to devote themselves to this cause? How would you suggest?
So I
we
feel
do
like when you're starting off now, you cannot. I've had multiple campaigns that failed. So when you're starting off, you do not need to do a lot. You just need to bring spotlight and attention to those issues. You just need to bring that, attention to every single thing that you really feel about. And that is a huge deal to be doing, to be honest. And then once you get more used to it, you can start organizing campaigns and doing different things. So yeah, I feel like the first, goal is to really feel it yourself and to bring attention to all of these things and really make it transparent and show the society that yes, these are the things that we're facing, and we really need to figure something out for these. Because if you're showing people what is actually happening in society, the society won't be so ignorant, and everybody at some point in their life they would feel for those things. I mean, we all have hearts and we all feel bad about things, right? So somewhere in life they will feel that this is the thing that is happening and it is wrong, and they would want to take an action.
Of course.
So it's just bringing spotlight and bringing attention to these issues.
Also, apart from the original core team that you had, the very first volunteers,
Yeah.
who would you identify as, your mentor, for example, your teacher, or the one who impactfully guided you into social working? And who were the people who helped you, propelled you up to, actually have a impact on our society?
Yeah. So actually, when I started now, it is actually a really sweet story. So I'm not gonna go that deep in the story, but it was our counselor. I would like to actually name her. Her name was Anisa Khan, and she really helped me. Even not only NGO, she helped me mentally as well to go through a lot of challenges in high school, to be honest. And she was the one who really took that initiative and really helped me put it into action. And not only her, our SM, which was Ma'am Maliha.
Miss Maliha, yeah.
She was the one who was helping me organize these campaigns. She was the one who was really, pushing it forward. She was not like, oh, just leave it, focus on her studies or whatever. She was really helping me in all aspects of life. She was helping me doing, plays and, ramp walks and even studies. She was helping me in studies as well, obviously. But she was the one who was really supporting me in all of these things. And the only way that I made it this far was because I had a support system. I had people who really wanted me to do these things and people who were not demotivating me and putting me down. So that's, I think, a really essential thing when, dealing with these type
That's
of
amazing.
things.
I honestly, on behalf of the community itself, our school, our podcasts,
Yeah.
and our team, I would like to thank you because you really are, first of all, awe-inspiring, to be
Sure.
honest, for people like me who are youthful and, young, but still didn't take that leap when you did. And you're kind of a role model for a lot of people who are coming
Thank you so
from
much.
O levels and A levels and from finishing their high schools.
Yeah.
And they see a person like you, take the mantle himself and do the Thanos, sure, I'll do it myself. But in our society, that's very important to take the initiative, right? Because a lot of people won't do that. For example, in a road accident, one person falls, 100 people would first walk by, and then one person who would, be magnanimous enough in their heart is going to help them. And honestly, you're one of those people in our society that we need more of, to be fair, right? I'm so thankful for the insight that you gave me and the, this discourse that we had. It was really awe-inspiring, and it was really fun to actually, have another person who's my age, but doing so much more. Not fun, actually. It was patronizing, but it is
fun when you step up into it. You have fun with your volunteers as well.
Exactly.
Like, we would go out and we would have food, and we would really enjoy it. We would go to this animal shelter in a bus, and we would play songs. And we would be blasting speakers in that bus, and even the driver would be like, "Bacha baith jao." But yeah, it is fun.
At the end of the day, it is the experiences that we share with people, and that is actually, I think, what you've been trying to get the underprivileged sector of our society to, incorporate with the rest of the privileges that we have, that we share, doing all the drives and everything. So thank you very much for being here with me. Thank you very much to, opening yourself, being vulnerable, as you said. As I said, the strongest and the most bravest of people are the one who show that they're vulnerable and then tell you to, tackle your own vulnerabilities. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet with you and talk with you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was Ravi Podcast, the very first edition. Hope you had fun, and I hope you also were, awe-inspired by the discourse that we had, the things and the words of wisdom that Ayat shared with us. I hope it was entertaining, not entertaining, but more informative and reformative, to say, for us to actually also take the leap and be the best version that we can be and help the society in whatever way we can. This is Raja Faris signing off. Thank you so much.